Chaitanya and Dylan and Gopal as well. They're all here, they're just taking their sweet time. And doing some important services.
Janiyam te tvarupina. Translation. In spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. Text 27. Ya tatmamaya yogena nana sakti pabrim hitam vilumpan vishujan grihnan bibrad atmanam atmana. Ya tatmamaya yogena Nana Shakti Pabrim Hitam Vilumpan Vishajan Grihnan Bibrat Atmanamatmana. Word for word. Yata as much as Atma own. Maya, potency. Yogena, by combination. Nana, various. Shakti, energy. Upabrimhitam, by combination and permutation. Vilumpan, in the matter of annihilation. Vishujan, in the matter of generation. Grihinan, in the matter of acceptance. Bibrihat, in the matter of maintenance. Shastra says that out of creation, annihilation, and maintenance, what's the most difficult task? Maintenance, yes. Maintenance is the most difficult. Atmanam, own self. Atmana, by the self. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace. So Brahmaji goes on. And please inform me how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance, and maintenance by combination and permutation. Purport. The whole manifestation is the Lord Himself. By diffusion of His different energies only, namely the internal, external, and marginal, just as the sunlight is the manifestation of the energy of the sun planet. Such energy is simultaneously one and different from the Lord, just as the sunshine is simultaneously one and different from the sun planet. The energies are acting by combination and permutation, by the indication of the Lord, and the acting agents like Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are also different incarnations of the Lord. In other words, there is nothing but the Lord, and still the Lord is different from all such manifestive activities. How is it so? Will be explained later on. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjala-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master is opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him again and again and again. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, I beg your blessings so I can speak something uplifting and beneficial for everyone present, myself included, so I can speak in line with Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, with no deviation, with no speculation, and no inappropriate motivation. And I'm going to speak about annihilation, generation, combination, and permutation. It's like a rapping verse today.
After here, there'll be no lamentation.
Yeah, no lamentation, yes.
Lots of gesticulation.
Yeah. I was speaking with my brother-in-law, Brajraj, yesterday, and he told me, he's from Hawaii originally, and as we all know, it's a like paradise kind of place. The climate is good, life is easy. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport, in one of the earlier verses, he says that easygoing life and self-realization do not go together. Srila Prabhupada says, easygoing life doesn't go together with Krishna consciousness. So Brajraj, in the house where he grew up, he had a neighbor, an elderly lady. She was retired, living her life, taking pictures of the ocean, taking walks. Maybe she had a dog. And Brajraj moved to New York. He joined the Harinam ashram when he first moved. Now he's got his own place, he's working, he's maintaining the family, he's supporting Ramroy Prabhu's project and so many other things, serving in the community in his capacity as a New Yorker. And this lady, he told me that she recently sent him a picture that she took at the beach. Beautiful sunset or sunrise, beautiful scenic environment, and she says, "Here is a picture of place where you grew up, so you don't forget where your home is, so you don't forget your home." And me and Brajraj, it made us think that when they try to drag us back down to where we're coming from karmically, in terms of our material designation, we should tell them that our home is
Goloka.
yeah, that's correct, but I'm looking for the one starting with K.
Krishna.
Very close. Can't be closer, but still, there's something closer. Our address is, we do it every day. Starting with K, we do it every day.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Balaram Mandir.
Krishna Balaram Mandir, yeah. Okay, my home address is Kirtan, yes.
Ānanda-bihārī.
So when they tell us, hey, we're here to remind you what your home is, Hawaii, look at this picture, this is where you're coming from, so you don't forget. So we should tell them, our home is Kirtan, our home is devotional service, our home is devotees association. And this is what we feel, at least I felt this way when I got up here and we started chanting Jaya Radha Madhava, and I immediately sensed this home, that I'm home. I'm here to glorify Krishna. This is Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is my home. This is where I reside. This is where I invest my assets. This is where I put all my eggs. This is the basket. I'm all in for devotional service, for giving up my bodily designations, and giving up, not in the sense of throwing it out the window, disregarding it and neglecting it, but in a sense of yagya, in a sense of offering. And the difference between giving up and offering is that on the other end, there is this recipient of our sacrifice. Whereas when you throw something out the window, there's, you don't care. There's nobody on the other end. That's this impersonalism and voidism. That's what Srila Prabhupada came here to dismantle by this doctrine of devotional service. So we're not here to give up and throw out the window everything we've been given by Krishna. We're here to sacrifice it in a sense of offering it to the Lord. And our body is a rental, as we all know. It's in our temporary possession. So it shouldn't be neglected. It shouldn't be disregarded. And when we leave our body, when it's time to leave our body, then we should know that we're not giving it up. We are offering it to the Lord. And the process of leaving the body is yagya, is a sacrifice. And Krishna is Yagya Purusha. He's the benefactor of this yagya, of death. Death is the ultimate, in a sense of ultimate loss. So we may think that death is a process where everything is being taken away from us. That's partially true, but the complete picture is that death and any act of losing something, any act of giving something up, as a devotee, we should understand it as yagya, and we should make it a yagya, understanding that there's Krishna on the other end, receiving that yagya. And this, unlike this process of giving something up, when we offer something, it becomes relationship. It becomes relationship. It takes two to tango. It becomes tango. So, when we chant, when we open Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, when we do our prayers, when we come together against all odds, despite all of our urges and things that may seem so necessary callings, against all odds, despite any obstacle, we show up for our sadhana, for our service. Then this is what takes us, this is what brings us home. And this is what gives us the sense of belonging, sense of identifying, sense of identity. When I was younger, I had this big difficulty. I couldn't get the sense of belonging. I couldn't associate myself with any group that I was exposed to. I couldn't, where I grew up, it's a big apartment buildings. It's a big complex kind of, a lot of, working people, and then children are on their own. And there was like a street upbringing, kind of, not extremely street upbringing, but to some extent. I was brought up by the street because my parents were working. I was kind of on my own. Street and television, that was my upbringing. And I couldn't fully identify with that. I had difficulties. I sensed that I don't fully belong to the street, and I don't fully belong to this television culture, MTV and all that, pop culture, and said, this is something wrong. Then I went, this pendulum swing shifted, and I went to this counterculture, and I tried to find myself there in the counterculture. All this, intoxication kicked in, and music, literature, and I couldn't identify myself with that culture either. And there's something wrong, and something is off. I couldn't really breathe fully in that environment. It's kind of cool, but it's not really where I can identify myself. And then I started hating everybody. Started just hating everybody because I couldn't understand where I belong. It's like being a ghost. You have all these desires, but you don't have the vehicle, you don't have the body to fulfill that desires. So I was like a ghost. I couldn't belong. I couldn't identify myself with anywhere. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, why do ghosts harass? Why do they harass? Why are they into harassing everybody? Why can't just fly around on their own without bothering anybody? Why do ghosts harass? Why do they have to bother?
I don't remember the specific purport, but they can take over your body, and they can enjoy a little bit.
Yeah, take over the body, yes. That's one aspect of that. They harass everybody because they want to possess the body. What's another? What may be the another reason for them to harass everybody?
They're envious. They can see that you're enjoying. They can enjoy.
Envious. Yes, you can enjoy. Yes. They're envious. What's the general term for that? Being envious, having to harass everybody. What's the source of it? Why? You're envious, but why do you have to bother that person? Why can't you just enjoy that poison? Why can't you? Why do you have to hurt other people? I'm giving you a hint. Why do you have to hurt? Why do we hurt people? Why do people have to hurt?
We're hurt.
We are hurting, yes. So I was hurting like a ghost. I couldn't. I had this desire, the desire to belong, the desire for self-realization. Ultimately, I just didn't know. The desire to serve Krishna, the desire to offer myself to something that was worthy of my sacrifice, something that is worthy of my trust and obedience. I was hurting because I didn't have that. I felt like a ghost. And only when I came across devotional service, Srila Prabhupada, his books and his devotees, then I started. I was 22 or 23 or something when I was first exposed to this Krishna consciousness movement consciously. I had some encounters, some semi-conscious encounters when I was in the subway, and this devotee, they were playing mridanga. Just mridanga, no kirtan. Two devotees playing, one was playing this tamasic drum with very heavy sound, and the other devotee was playing mridanga with more elaborate, more refined vibrations. And I sat down with them. I didn't know they were devotees, I had no idea. And they were playing to collect some money, I guess, because they had a basket put out front. And I played, and they gave me mridanga to play. And then I sat on the mridanga. I put it between my legs, sat on it like a jumbo, I thought. And I was just playing on one side, on the big side, like that. And they tolerated me. They let me play. And then I saw Harinam a couple of times, Kirtan. And I saw a program on TV, on television, program on the Hare Krishna movement. And it was late 90s, early 2000s, I think. And Russia, was very atheistic. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, all kinds of cults went in. It was a new market for them. And there was a very strong anti-cultists anti-cultist movement in Russia. And television was all anti-cult, because people were giving out their apartments, or everything they had to this cult, self-proclaimed gurus and self-manifest prophets and things like that. So, in the Hare Krishna movement was viewed in that context, in the context of cult and pedophile kind of cult, very heavy stuff. And that was the television program that I watched. And I thought these people in the subway distributing books, they were baby rapists, and they were after my money and after my soul. They want me to re-register my apartment, sign it off to them. So I was apprehensive when I was approached a couple of times by Sankirtan devotees. I thought he's a baby rapist. I'm not going to take a book. And then, but then gradually, after I played some Mridanga, and then I took a cookie, and I was a music person, and I still am. Very strong addiction to music, still suffering from it, from a lower types of music that I'm still attracted to. But I liked kirtan. I liked the way harmonium sounded, and I took a compact disc, a CD from a person. I said, I'm not necessarily interested in your philosophy. I wasn't, challenging them. I was just said, it's just don't bother me. Don't take my soul, but I'll take your disc. I'll take your music. I like the music. And he gave me this compact disc, and there was 2 classes, one on karma and one on reincarnation. In very general terms, very, these concepts were explained very gently, very delicately, with no fanaticism, very nicely. I could relate to them. And there was one song, Govinda Madhipurusham, and it was George Harrison, and I knew that, and I knew it was from Beatles, part of counterculture. So I had my guards were down when I heard George Harrison, and I was playing that song day and night. I remember my roommate, he had a very strong weed habit. My roommate, he was stoned, day and night. And my schedule was changing. He was staying up very late, and I was starting to get up early. I gave up meat. At first, it was so, gosh, I was such a gross materialist. I couldn't give up meat because I didn't feel satisfaction after meals without meat. So I decided, okay, let me at least balance it out by vegetables. So I made sure that my plate had 3 times more vegetables than meat. That's how I started. And then I got this terrible, I was lazy, I never cooked. And I was eating whatever my mom would send me. And sometimes it was in the fridge for days and days and days, and I got terrible food poisoning. I was in bed flat for days, I think, for hours and hours, and I think 2 or 3 days I was in bed out of this meat poisoning. And ever since I decided, okay, this is toxic stuff, I should give it up. So I was playing that song day and night. I gave up meat, and then I think that retrospectively, I realized that was when I slowed down on my bad habits, when I was playing kirtan, when I heard from scripture about karma and reincarnation, and it made sense to me. So my guards were down. My baby rapist guard was down, finally. And I listened more and more, and I went to this marketplace where they were selling eclectic literature and eclectic books. And I picked up Dhammapada, that's a Buddhist teaching, Buddhist book. And I picked up a disc with Indian folk music. When I was playing that, and this was giving me the sense of belonging, and this is something I can identify myself with. But at the same time, I saw this, the person wearing crystals like Gopal Champu does. And I think this is a little bit, or a yoga person, a guy wearing tights. I said, this is yoga culture, I'm not into this crystals and pants. So I was looking for something that has substance, like real deal. No tights, no crystals, straightforward philosophy that can explain to me who I am and where I can apply myself, so I can stop being a ghost and so I can live my life. But this apprehension was there. So then, in the meantime, my sister, my younger sister, she became a not full-time devotee, but full-on devotee. She didn't move into the temple, but she kind of embraced the philosophy. She didn't have that.
You told her about it, or she found it?
I think I might have mentioned something, but she came on her own. Because I never surrendered. I heard it, I was exposed, but I didn't surrender. But she heard, and she surrendered. And then, when I saw her in the temple, dressed up, sari, circumambulating the deities, this, idols, idol worship and stuff, and I became very concerned about her, being brainwashed, and so I kind of called her out and I said, we need to talk. I'm really concerned. I'm worried that you have submitted yourself to this cult. It's so foreign to our culture. We're a Christian country. What about our ancestors and all that nonsense? And she told me, and I was the older brother. She would always listen to me. Whatever I did, she followed to some extent. But this time she told me that I'm sick of that. I'm sick of that. Parents are telling me what to do, now you're telling me what to do. I'm a soul. I'm a soul. And you don't have authority over me because I'm a soul. And she was crying because she's a woman, she was crying. But she was saying this very, truth that I couldn't really object to. And that made sense to me. She's a soul, independent soul. And I am a soul. And I had this question, what's my soul's name? If I'm a soul, what's the name of my soul? Alois Shapoval? Is that the name of my soul? That doesn't sound, that sounds, ridiculous. The soul's name is Alois Shapoval. That doesn't sound serious. That doesn't sound reasonable. And she told me, I'm a soul, you have no authority over me, you can't tell me what to do, and this is my quest, and she said, finally, I found something substantial, finally I found something that I can identify myself with, and I'm going for it. And you're not stopping me. And so I was, it was a sweet defeat. I couldn't say anything against it, but I felt good. I didn't feel defeated or humiliated by, my younger sister. It felt good. And I started to sense, maybe I should give it a shot. Maybe I should at least study what these guys are teaching. And I went to the temple. I didn't have this challenging mood. I had, but I had some apprehensions about it. My idea was that you can search out for this absolute truth, but you can't submit to it prematurely. You have to make sure it's worthy of your trust and surrender. So I was at that phase. That was my understanding. And I walked into the temple, and this tall brahmachari, I see this tall brahmachari with very thick socks. He wasn't wearing any shoes, and he was, he looked at me and said, hey, can I help you? I said, yeah, I'm here to find out about you guys, about your philosophy. And he immediately picked up that I was brand new, and he said, okay, come, I'll talk to you. And he gave me his time. And unlike this external world that I was coming from, he gave me his full attention. I wasn't used to that. Somebody is giving his full attention to me. Somebody is taking his time to sit down with me and talk to me, being fully present before me, giving me his full attention. And he told me, before we sat down, he told me, open, put your hand out. And then he dropped a drop of some liquid and he said, and take it in. I said, but my hands aren't clean. He said, that's okay, just take it in. I took it in and he said, okay, now you can, present your questions. So that's a very smart, it's first Prashanam, and then I presented my understanding that if there is absolute good, then there is absolute bad, and when you put them together, there is nothing, Yeah, Gopal Champa, does that sound familiar?
I like that, first off, the Prashad and talk.
Yeah, we should learn from that. Yeah, I mean, I think you should approach people like that. Get a little Charnamrita, put your hand out, take that in.
Take a book.
Yeah. Now take a book. Have a good day. Yeah. So I presented my philosophy that since there is absolute truth can be absolute because absolute good cannot be absolute because there is absolute bad, and therefore absolute can only be nothing. Plus 1 minus 1 equals 0. And he said, I've told this story before, he said, there's 2 rooms and the door between them. If you open the door, the light goes into the dark room, not otherwise. It's not that the darkness goes into the bright room. It's the other way around. The light goes into the dark. And it made sense to me again. This makes sense. And to this day, I'm still, excited about Krishna consciousness just because it makes sense. Krishna consciousness still excites me to this day and will be, I'm sure. Devotional service still excites me because it makes sense. I can apply myself to it. It's worthy of my trust. It's worthy of my attention. It's worthy of my sacrifice. I have this free will, and it makes it, because I'm free to go elsewhere. I'm choosing to go and show up for my sadhana, for my vows and responsibilities in Krishna consciousness. And it feels good because it's based on free will, and I'm free to go do so many other things. But because this Krishna consciousness is our nature, that's what we're built for. It's like if you're a heater, then you experience pleasure when you make heat, when you heat and make people happy by heating the room. So I feel the same way about Krishna consciousness. Why? Because that's who I am. Finally I found something that I can identify myself with, not counterculture, not street culture, not consumerism culture, start a family, get a job, raise children, retire, die. Not that. But Krishna consciousness, the service, there's enough service for everyone. We can fill our days with devotional service. There's no shortage of devotional service. Okay, do we have any contributions, chastisements, corrections?
I just like the
Jamal.
first thing you mentioned about the devotee doesn't necessarily give up positions, like they discard them and they don't use them.
Mm-hmm.
But the devotee is giving up proprietorship, basically. He's giving up their idea of possessing or enjoying something.
Yeah.
Like we have a car, we have so many things, but we understand it's not our car, therefore there's like a different mood, one which binds one to the material world and one which liberates one. So I thought that was an interesting thing, which made me think also of verse in Sadgoswami has to come, the 4th verse, that the Sadgoswamis, they kicked off all the aristocratic association and enjoyment. And they accepted one class, they accepted such strict renunciation, but
Yeah.
Even though externally, in their case, they did give up material things. They didn't actually lose. It's not giving something up. It's just accepting something higher.
Yeah.
I thought that was nice.
Prabhu was quoting Shikshastika verse, "O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers." Is that Instagram followers? I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Yeah. Not to bar.
I like how in the beginning you were talking about where our home is and things like that, and it reminded me of
You liked how your home is Kirtan?
yeah.
In Michigan.
No, it reminded me of Yudhisthira Maharaj just talking to that yaksha. I recently read this, and one thing he says is like, when is someone happy? And
Oh, when he was answering questions?
yeah. So when is someone happy? And they said when they don't have to travel too far from home, they can get everything they need at home. And then actually it was kind of nice. After I read this, it was Guru Govinda Swami's appearance day or disappearance day, and we were listening to a lecture, and he starts lecturing on this one Yudhisthira Maharaj is saying. And he's saying what home really means is like back home, back to God, and not just like you're happy like at home with like
Yeah.
stuff.
It's not easy going life, right?
He interpreted the whole statement. There's a few, I can't remember exactly, but there's a whole thing, and that's where our real home is, not like where we sleep at night or something like that. We're all actually, the Christians say you should help the homeless and the poor and the destitute, but even if you're Bill Gates or the rich, Warren Buffett, you're still destitute and homeless because we're all outside our home right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Our home is devotional service. Our street address is Kirtan. I like that one. And there's one analogy. I like how Nattabara Gauranga Prabhu mentioned that happiness, one is happy when he can get something, not having to go far away from home. So in the same way, we as devotees should be happy and satisfied with whatever we can get without having to abandon our sadhana, without having to compromise on our regulative principles and our commitments and vows. Whatever, materially speaking, whatever material things we can put our hands on without having to abandon our devotional service. So that's ours. That's our Sri Ishapanishad Mantra 1 says, we know well to whom everything belongs, and we shouldn't, there's a quota for everyone. So that, how do we know what's in our quota? So we can, one way to figure that out is to get that, do I have to break the principle? Or to get that material thing, do I have to sacrifice my sadhana? Do I have to miss Harinam to get that? Do I have to offend a devotee to get that? So that's our stick. We're holding on to a pole which is in the center. So that pole is our sadhana. We're holding on to it with one hand, and with the other hand we get things here and there. So we should never, the criteria of what's ours and what's not is what we can get without having to compromise on our sadhana. So the sadhana, this is our home also. This is our home base. This is every vessel, every ship has its port. So our port, and may go here and there, but the port is always the same. The port is the 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds, reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day, serving with the devotees, pleasing our spiritual master. That's the criteria. That's our home. That's our home run, our home base. Yeah. Do we have any other questions or contributions? If not, I'll keep going. I
found that statement. Okay, he who is neither in debt nor exiled and who lives simply, eating simple food in his own home is happy. So like, the debt was explained to be like, we're all indebted to our forefathers, the demigods, and all these different things. But by performing devotional service, we're relieved of all our debt. So, and then, I guess, exiled. I can't remember what he said for that.
There's no way, even if we wanted to pay off all our material debts, there's no way we can possibly do it. Like, just like you can't love every single living being separately, one by one, one after another, just in the same way you can pay off everything you owe. Ancestors are just, we're not meant to do that. We're not meant to do that. We're meant to please Krishna, and by pleasing Krishna, everything follows. The inner satisfaction, inner peace follows immediately. There may be hesitancy in the beginning, like, Stephen King, he says, what's the most scary? It's like, not exactly like Yudhishthira and Yaksha, but also, what's the most scary moment? What's the scariest moment? Is the moment, does anybody know that Stephen King's quote? No. What's the scariest moment according to Stephen King?
You don't know?
It's very close. Is right before you start.
Oh, okay.
That's the scariest moments, right before you start, he says. So, the most difficult moment in Krishna consciousness, we may say that, is right before you start. It's painful. To take cold shower is painful. But the pain is right before you turn the knob. That's pain. After that, there's no pain. You're just going for it. The most difficult moment is to, I'm going to open the book. I'm going to put everything else aside, and I'm going to read. Because this is pleasing to my guru. This is pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada used gallons and gallons of blood to write his books, to get them distributed, published, distributed. So I should put everything aside and read them. And the hesitancy, the pain is in the beginning. Once we open the book, immediately this soothing effect, it takes place right away. When I lived in the Bhakti Center, my room, I had a little room that I was paying for, but I stopped sleeping in that room because it had bed bugs, so I didn't sleep in my room. I didn't know how to drive them out. I didn't know much about them. Now I'm like, acharya, bed bug acharya. You call me, you dispatch me, I can, track them down and get them out. But at that time I was very new, and my idea was, if there is a problem, let me walk away from it. Let me make my life easygoing and comfortable. So I was walking away from bed bug problem in my room, and I slept in the temple room. And when you sleep in the temple room, you wake up, you get up, whether you want it or not, you have to get up. So I made it easy for myself. When the pujari walks in to greet the deities, to wake the deities up, I had to wake up. Because when I was in my room, I couldn't get up. I was on my own. It felt so cozy, so warm. I felt so tired. And my mind was coming up with all these excuses. Oh, you're working, you have to take enough rest so you can serve Krishna. It was like a very secondary purpose, serving Krishna. But when I was in the temple room, it was very easy, very easy. There was no pain, there was no mental pain, because there was no choice. But as we mature in our devotional service, as we grow, then we should develop this self-control. Self-control means to choose Krishna over Maya. That's what real self-control is. Self-control is not resisting the temptation, is not mere resistance, is not, renunciation. We have nothing to renounce in the first place. Renunciation is when you choose Krishna over Maya. That's the real freedom of choice. That's the real act of perseverance. When we choose, and choice means you can do other things. You are free to do otherwise. That's what choice is. So we should train ourselves in such a way that even though there is every facility that is there for us to enjoy and control material energy, we should still opt, for Krishna, for service, for austerity. And the suffering is very quick. The pain is very quick. This moment of like when somebody is experiencing, when the addict is experiencing an urge to go for his drug, the therapy says that this urge, if you look at it, is very brief. It's a very brief moment. Very brief. Very, very tiny. Like Stephen King says, that the most difficult time is right before you start. Right before means it's very quick. So maybe it is helpful for us to bear in mind that this temptation from Maya is very brief. It's very brief. It may seem very acute. It may seem very strong, but we should understand that this is very brief. It's very brief. And on the other hand, we should understand that the pleasure of diving into Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, going through the pastimes of the Lord, glorifying Krishna, sharing prasadam with the devotees, doing service together, it's so broad. The pleasure that is available in devotional service is so vast. It's unlimited. It has no end. It has no end. Adipusha Prabhu, with whom I'm serving very closely, he's 74, and he's been hearing the same message day in and day out for decades. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are meant to serve Krishna. We're not God. We're meant to serve Krishna. And the message is the same. But we can see how devotees, after so many years of sadhana, after so many years of service and hearing from Scripture, they still enjoy the message. They enjoy doing devotional service. They enjoy surrendering. They enjoy this betting on Krishna and getting the reward. Getting the reward every single time. Every single time we choose Krishna. At least in my tiny experience, Krishna has always rewarded me with something that is, by a long shot, so much better than what I had to give up. So much better. But it seemed problematic in the beginning, definitely, for sure. It seemed difficult. One time in the ashram, somebody used some expired ingredient, and everybody got this terrible poisoning, food poisoning. And everybody was on the toilet. And it was so nasty, and the devotees were sharing how nasty all this experience was. The lower chakra, it was going out through the upper chakras. It was terrible. And I remember one devotee, and they were drawing, spiritual, devotional realizations from that experience. One devotee was taken to a hospital, Dan Ballin, he was, if you know what it is, he was taken to a hospital. But everybody else has had severe diarrhea and severe, vomiting and all that. And one devotee was sharing that when we want to vomit, we sense this toxic item within, and we know that vomiting is not going to be pleasant. You have this sensation in your mouth, in your nose, smells and tastes terrible. But you're hesitant to go and do it, to get rid of that impurity. But once you, with the torchlight of knowledge and determination and detachment, the devotional service may be difficult, but let me do it, let me go for it. And once it's done, you feel so easy. It's gone, the impurity is gone, the austerity is done, and it feels good. So that's how Krishna consciousness, it may not be a very appropriate example, vomiting, but austerity for the pleasure of the Lord may be dirty, may be difficult. We may have to fight sometimes. Somebody told me that Jayanta Prabhu, he had to punch somebody in the face in the service of the Lord. He was done.
Knock them down.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, it's devotional service is not necessarily always, you know, externally looks, you know, happy, joyful. Externally it may look very severe. Srila Prabhupada said we're meant for severe. Early in the verse, Brahmaji underwent severe austerity. So devotional service is severe austerity for the pleasure of the Lord. And this aspect of the recipient, on the other hand, is what makes this austerity, severe austerity, so joyful and so fulfilling. It's joyful and fulfilling because Krishna is on the other hand, because this is a relationship. And relationship is the most fulfilling thing that's available for us, because that's who we are. We're part and parcel of Krishna, and we're meant to reconnect. And it's a Sankirtan process. We're meant to do it together, and that's what makes it so pleasurable. We're in it together. Okay. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Radha Govinda Mandir morning program gathering ki.
Ānanda-bihārī.